actually very interesting. You have an argument about how political correctness is enabling this rise of kind of alt-right populism. Let's run through that a bit. Why is political correctness dangerous for us?
Yeah. By the alt-right, I was not referring to tiki torch carrying skinheads, which is sometimes the term alt-right is applied to, but the original sense of internet savvy, often tech savvy, generally young men who found each other on the internet and later on social media. Many of them highly intelligent, highly analytic, but felt that they were ostracized, they were kept from certain truths by the taboos and conventions of mainstream intellectual life, particularly in universities. And when they stumbled across scientific or statistical facts that were undiscussable in the universities, felt this enormous sense of empowerment, that they discovered a truth that the mainstream couldn't handle. It made them feel that they could reject all of the mainstream body of understanding and knowledge. That sometimes they called it taking the red pill, an illusion from the matrix of seeing reality. And because they then were able to share these facts in their own discussion groups without any kind of pushback or debate or refutation from the rest of intellectual life, they could develop into pretty toxic forms. And if you look at, say, the speeches of Milo Yiannopoulos, what he proposes is taking some statistical generalization and then spinning it into completely outrageous conclusions, perhaps deliberately to inflame and to goad. So, for example, the fact that there are differences in life priorities on average between men and women, there are enormous amounts of data that show that this is true. That if you ask people to rate how important is family, how important is career, how important is recreation, how important is social activism, the distributions you get for men and women are not identical. I mean, I hope I haven't shocked anyone, but all of the questionnaires your guidance counselor gave you in high school, you add them up, there are millions of data points, and they show that men and women are not exactly the same. Milo Yiannopoulos says,
well, there's 100 female lumberjacks in the room tonight, so a lot of pushback.
So this is a fact. It doesn't mean, now of course, and this is an argument I made in the blank slate, there's nothing particularly dangerous about this fact. It doesn't mean licensed discrimination because the distributions overlap. We should treat people as individuals, not as members of a gender. So fairness does not require sameness. They must be distinguished. But because the fact could be discussed, then the political and moral implications could be put into context, whereas in a community that just feels a revelation that they could talk about this fact amongst themselves, then you get Milo saying, well, we should not admit women to grad school because they're more likely to drop out when they have children, or to med school, which is a completely preposterous, pernicious conclusion, but one that wasn't laughed out of court because he was able to say it in this closed forum of people who heard it for the first time. And there are other facts like that which can be domesticated in the crucible of open debate and criticism and refutation, but if they are taboo, then I think that creates a space where people who stumble upon them can draw the worst possible conclusions without opposition from the greater intellectual community. So that was the dynamic which I think has led to the alt-right in its original sense. One of my co-panelists, Wendy Kaminer, the civil liberties lawyer, cited a bunch of data that suggested that many of the voters of Trump really were not unemployed coal miners or steel workers. They were infuriated by what they perceived as political correctness, by the hypersensitivity, the inability to express certain opinions, and that was statistically a significant factor in the 2016 election.